Now, yesterday, hundreds of thousands of pupils received their A-level results, but some didn't quite get the hat-throwing grades they were hoping for, with the biggest fall in the share of top grades awarded, A and A-star, on record. And competition this year is fierce, predominantly for the prestigious Russell Group of universities. And foreign students, which typically pay 2 or 3 times more fees, some say that they're being favoured, giving the soaring number of students from overseas. But given student debt, rising living costs and more apprenticeships becoming available, is university financially worth it anyway? Let's continue the discussion that we had yesterday when results came out. I'm joined now by Lucinda Dodd, a student at Nottingham University. She's editor-in-chief of Impact, their student newspaper and magazine. Lucinda, great to have you with us. You're at a fabulous university, a Russell Group university in a really interesting town. You've got Nottingham Trent University there too. Lots and lots of students there in the East Midlands. What would you say to somebody watching On the Money, listening to On the Money, or their parents? They've just got their A-level results. They can't quite decide if they want to go to university. Is it financially worth it?
Well, Liam, I would definitely say it is. University can't and shouldn't be put down to you get a series of grades and then at the end you get a piece of paper and that's how much your university experience was worth. It's about like the experiences both in and outside of the classroom. So whilst I know that with the rising cost of living, it is a genuine factor for many people to consider whether it's economically worth going to university, but I would say that the experiences it affords you, it's definitely still worth it.
Can I ask, what are you studying, Lucinda? What's your degree?
I study liberal arts.
So you study a degree. I mean, for some degrees, there really is a huge graduate premium, isn't there? If you study engineering, if you study economics and business, if you study maths, we know that those graduates have big earning potential almost as soon as they leave university. It's less clear for people doing history, English, liberal arts, maybe languages, with all respect. But there is still a graduate premium, isn't there? On average, you are likely to earn quite a lot more money than people without a degree. I looked at some numbers yesterday. The average wage in the UK is something like £27,000–28,000 a year. The average wage for a graduate is more like £40,000 a year, which really adds up over a lifetime.
Yeah, so I think you've got to look at university as a sort of long-term investment. And whilst you could perhaps walk into a job and start earning, whereas obviously university is more of a burden financially, long-term, it can be a great investment. And I think there is a kind of misconception that those arts degrees aren't really worth the money. But I think the skills you get from them, employers do know that they are valuable. And long-term, you could end up financially better off having done a degree.
How do you feel, Lucinda? I mean, I feel guilty here. I went to university back in the day where there were no fees, and I even got a grant for some of my living costs, the means-tested grant. How do you feel that you will leave university, with all respect, with a pretty hefty debt? And if you earn over a certain amount of money, not a particularly large amount of money, every week, every month out of your paycheck, along with rent and savings and food and everything else, the government's going to take some money to pay back that debt.
I mean, of course, it's not ideal. And obviously, I am very envious of everyone who doesn't have to went to university without having to front the cost. But yeah, it was something I considered when I first decided to go to university. And I think ultimately, as you mentioned, you don't start paying it off till you've earned a certain amount, and it's only a certain amount you will pay off. And it is eventually scrapped if you haven't paid it all off by a certain amount of years. So, it didn't put me off, and I wouldn't advise students being put off by that. Obviously, student debt is quite different to normal debt.
Lucinda Dodd, you are editor-in-chief of Impact at Nottingham University. Thanks a lot for appearing here on The Money. Paul, I think you had a daughter who's at Nottingham University, right?
Yeah, my daughter's just literally graduated.
Fabulous.
From politics and international relations.
I mean, there's a really confident young woman.
Absolutely.
She's clearly at the top of her game. She's editing the student
Absolutely.
newspaper. She comes on national television at the drop of a hat. Very, very impressive young person. But it isn't for everyone, is it? Were you ever in two minds, you and your family, about whether or not university...
I didn't go to university.
Yeah.
I left school and went... I did actually try and have a brief period of time as a professional cricketer, which didn't work out very well for me. But I went into the city pretty much from 18, 19 years of age.
Yeah.
And worked my way up through it. And for me, getting into the working environment, I really enjoyed. And I'm not sure whether I would have... I was... not very academically focused, we put it that way.
But you're clearly a very smart guy. You're a successful financial analyst in the City of London. Is there still a route into the City of London, into finance, for kids who are sharp? They're not academic, but they're savvy, they're streetwise, they can see round corners, they know how to read people. Is that route still there?
It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder. I mean, look, I've been interviewing graduates for many, many years into roles in the city, and they all come out of some pretty good universities. And I think you've got to think about a university degree as an investment, as Lucinda was saying, and you want a return on that. Like all investments, you want a return on that investment. And I think for a lot of people, you know, that 3 years there at a university, at a good university, gives you a lot of life skills and a qualification at the end of it that can help build you getting a career in the future. So it's an interesting debate, though. So
the message today is that university is worth it financially. On yesterday's On the Money, if you were watching or listening, we heard from Gareth, who is an apprenticeship expert. He knows all about engineering apprenticeships. That's worth having a look at on the GB News app. We also heard from Birkbeck College, London, which is a university that's specifically geared up to do evening classes, so you can work and do a degree at the same time, or you can do a degree in later life. So there are many, many options. And once again, as I said yesterday, if you did get your A-levels yesterday, you didn't make your grades, things happen for a reason. Keep your confidence, keep your chin up. You will make your way.